morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, most of the cattle are home from the hills, and some of our neighbors have got their Christmas decorations up, and by the time you hear this, we might. Last year, I went skiing with Martin up at Sun Peaks about this time, and when I got home, Billy had our Christmas lights all put up. Now, I'm not sure I can pull that off 2 years in a row. Anyhow, this week I've pulled out some good songs about Christmas in the West and some good recollections of cattle drives, big ranches, and some memories of a performance horse legend. You'll hear from top hand Ed Russell of the River Ranch with memories of taking cattle across a suspension bridge.
It's an experience anyways when all those cattle start going across and you're supposed to take a little cut and go out behind them, and you get on that bridge and it's just a hopping up and down. You wonder what you're doing out there.
And cutting horse legend Dave Batty remembers Jimmy McDonnell, and a guy that I rode with on a big cattle drive is a story about being caught in a blizzard. And a bull broke into a pasture full of purebred heifers, and the efforts to get him out were frantic and unsuccessful. Baxter Black has that story.
They were a horseback and got the bull headed in a long trot towards one end. Well, he became agitated and stirred up, estrogen probably.
Anyway, results in some collateral damage that Bax will fill us in on. In the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, thanks to what happened on Baxter Black's segment, a cowboy had to spend Christmas waiting for a birth.
Oh, there's one little motley-faced heifer that somehow got in with a bull, and she's just too little to leave by herself, 'cause the calf's gonna have to be pulled.
On the Horse Training File, some advice for controlling your horse's direction in a way that he can understand and respond to. And we'll take you to just about the biggest ranch in North America after Bren Hill and the North Pole Rodeo.
It's a cold, cold place, 6 months till dawn. Toes are all delivered, Christmas is gone. There ain't much to do, 36 below. Saddle up the reindeer and have a rodeo. You shake the holiday blues wearing cowboy boots and faded denim tights. Or watch Rudolph, Buck, and Elf 2 ride through the northern lights. And there ain't no better show in an arena made of snow than Santa's North Pole Rodeo. Here they go. Yodelay, yodelo, yodelay, yodelo, yodelay, yodelo, yodelo, yodelay, yodelo, yodelo. You ain't never seen a bareback ride. You've seen an elf on a polar bear's backside. I tried to toss a loop round a slick wet seal, or hog tie a narwhal. Man, that's a slippery deal. You shake the holiday blues wearing cowboy boots and faded denim tights. I watch Rudolph, Buck, and Elf 2 ride through the northern lights. And there ain't no better show in an arena made of snow than Santa's North Pole Rodeo. One more time. Yodelay, yodelo, yodelay, yodelo, yodelay, yodelo, yodelo, yodelay, yodelo, yodelo. Whoa, ho, 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 ho. Yeehaw.
Yeah, that was Santa Claus playing the banjo. Well, Ed Russell has won a lot of awards and ranch rodeos that he competes at with his wife, Rochelle. They are a formidable team. Ed earned his spurs on a number of big outfits, and he and Rochelle now operate the River Ranch. And a while back, I had a chance to visit with Ed, and he had some special memories of his days as cow boss at the famous Gang Ranch.
Yeah, it's hard to find those big places where you can get out and you can ride all day and you don't see another person. It's nice. I really enjoy it. If you like being secluded and like riding all day and you like riding lots of horses, that's the place to be.
Lots of long miles. Is there a lot of hauling in trailers, or can you really cover a lot of it without hauling too much?
No, we travel around quite a bit of horseback. Their roads are rough, and those logging trucks, they beat them all up. And we try not to haul around too much.
How is it getting cattle across that bridge? I've heard all kinds of stories about how that works. Can you get liners across that bridge?
No, all liners, they got to come in from another direction. If we have cattle to go out, we usually just haul them out in trucks and horse trailers across the river, and we got another set of corrals over there. When I first started, we drove a couple bunches across there, and it's an experience anyways when all those cattle start going across and you're supposed to take a little cut and go out behind them, and you get on that bridge and it's just a hopping up and down. You wonder what you're doing out there.
Oh man. What would you take, 15 or 20 when it was like that?
No, when they take bunches like that, you'd take probably 40 or 50 of them, and then there'd be another bunch right behind you because they're usually yearlings, and one bunch would start, and once the front bunch goes, well, the rest is going to be coming along pretty quick. So you got cattle on both ends of you. There's no way out.
And you're thousands of feet above the river there.
Yeah, it's quite a bridge.
It's been a lot of good cowboys come and go at that place, and I don't know, it just seems that everybody, if they can say, I rode at the gang ranch at one time, that's really, really something to be able to say that.
Yeah, a lot of people have said they rode there. A lot of people said they've rode lots of places, but you find out where they have rode when they get there.
What were some of the places you were before you stopped there?
I worked at Douglas Lake. I worked at Elklie Lake. I worked at a couple small places in Alberta. Yeah, I've pretty much been around it all my life.
Was that something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, I always wanted to do it, but it's pretty tough to do it. I'm originally from Alberta, and pretty tough to do it on a place down there. You got to come out here to BC to get on the big outfits and ride with all the cowboys.
Isn't that something? And
no, it's pretty much, if you want to ride all day and not be riding around a horse trailer all day, you pretty much got to come to BC these days.
Well, he makes it sound like the last frontier. When we come back, a legend in the world of cutting horses, Dave Batty, remembers Jimmy McDonald, and a cowboy remembers being caught in a spring blizzard and how he put a scare into the passengers of a passing aircraft. When the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. In the world of cutting horses, Dave Batty is kind of a trailblazer. Gosh, I can remember him on a couple of legendary horses, Peppy San and Stardust Desire years ago, and of course he's developed a lot of champions over the years since then. A few years ago, we were at a ranch horse competition. I was competing, actually, and he was judging, and I had a chance to ask him a few questions. Is there a point back when you were working at Douglas Lake when you had to make a choice maybe between going the working cowboy route or the general stock horse route, or specializing in those real high-end performance cutting horses?
Well, I got used to a different style of life than a working cowboy did, and you couldn't afford that kind of life with working cowboy wages, so that's why I took up training cutting horses.
How did it start for you? What were you doing at the time when you realized that there's some real opportunities in this field?
Well, I rode. I lived on Vancouver Island. A lot of people don't know that. And I always wanted to be a cowboy, and you couldn't be a cowboy on Vancouver Island. And one day I ran into Jimmy McDonald, and I was just a kid then, and I told him, I said, I really want to ride horses the way you are. He was a professional and very good. And it wasn't long, maybe 6-8 months later, I was going to high school, and he called me and he said, we need somebody to go to work at Douglas Lake. And he said, are you interested? I said, I'll be there tomorrow. And I quit school, which my parents didn't really like, but I left school and I went to Douglas Lake. I think I was 16. And that's where I got my start, was working with Jimmy at Douglas Lake.
I always wanted to interview Jimmy, and I knew him not real well, but well enough that we could talk, and he always told me wonderful stories when we sat down and talked. And his one of his, I think it was his daughter-in-law or somebody, phoned one day and said, "You should talk to Jimmy on your show and get some stories." So I phoned him up. Before I even finished saying, "Hi, Jimmy, it's Hugh here," he says, "Hugh, you won't believe what happened the other day. I was on this colt, and he bogged his head and blew, and I rode him, and then I figured it was over, and we went out in the hills, and he darn near bucked me off." And then he told me 3 more stories, and I said, "Jimmy, can I come down with my tape machine, get some of these stories?" "Oh, no way, no, I'm not telling those stories publicly." And he wouldn't do it.
Well, Jimmy was a little different, and he was very good to me. He really started me out, and Jimmy could work any kind of a horse. He could work a bad horse or a good horse, and he could do what he wanted. And he worked the round pen a little bit. The kind of horses Jimmy worked back in those days when I first met him was he broke some 5-6-year-old horses for the gang. And you had to have a pretty tall round pen to work them horses in, and big logs, not just a steel pen. So Jimmy started out with tough horses, but he could ride the good ones too, and do a good job. He was a great guy, great cowboy.
He sure was.
He could rope, and he taught me how to rope and basically train horses. And Jimmy he was really a good guy.
First time I saw Jimmy on his steed was at the Calgary Stampede. Cutting horses big and small. He lost the rein and he won it all. I said, lost the rein and he won it all. You see, keeper's old Cadillac, old trailer on the back, and a cigarette in one hand. Jimmy McDonald was a cutting horse man. Jimmy McDonald was a cutting horse man. Here we go. Jimmy McDonald, he worked very tall, spoke with kind of southern drawl. For Mr. Woodward, he earned his pay, and he trained cutting horses the cowboy way. Trained horses the cowboy way. You see, Keeford old Cadillac with a horse trailer on the back and a cigarette in one hand. Jimmy McDonald was a cutting horse man. Jimmy McDonald was a cutting horse man. Here we go. Now Jimmy is laid to rest, and he's numbered with the best. Time here cutting horse dives and slides. Jimmy's memory comes alive. Jimmy's memory comes alive. You see, T-bird on Cadillac with a horse trailer on the back and a cigarette in one hand. Jimmy McDonald was a cutting horse man. Jimmy McDonald was a cutting horse man. You see, T-bird on Cadillac with a horse trailer on the back and a cigarette in one hand. Jimmy McDonald was a good horse man. Jimmy McDonald was a good horse man. Take him home.
Now that's Rob Dinwoody and his great song about Jimmy McDonald. Want to take you back now to the last of the famous Kamloops cattle drives, and on this one, we came from the historic Hat Creek Ranch, and it was my great privilege to be part of the drover crew, and I got to ride with Fergie Jocelyn. Fergie was recruited for this one because he'd spent a lot of years cowboying in that region. He knew every watershed and every twist and turn of the trail, and even though he spent most of his life horseback in the West, he never lost his charming English accent. And it seemed like every meadow we came to reminded him of another story.
Well, there was a place up at Crowsbar we used to call Codling Flats. It's just a big open area, nice bunch grass and so on. Well, anyway, if you've ever been caught in one of these spring snowstorms where, snowflakes like that, and wet, heavy snowflakes, well, okay, I got to retract just a little bit. The spring before, or the fall before, like I say, being more mouth than brains, I bet Bobby Sisson that I could quit smoking. We both used to smoke. So, anyway, the bet was a Mickey of rum and my shaps. This is significant. I don't have any shaps. So anyway, when I went out, back up to Crowsbar that next spring, of course I had no shaps, Well, I got caught in one of these spring snowstorms, like just wet, heavy flakes, and I'm coming through, and then when I get to Codling Flats, and I'm soaking wet, just soaking wet, right from nose to tail. So there was a nice big pine tree, and under these pines quite often there's these branches and a lot of stuff. So anyway, I said, well, that's it, I'm not riding any further. So I got a fire going and stripped right naked except for my boots and hat, and I got everything spread out, my clothes trying to dry. And what should happen? This blooming little airplane comes flying over, right over Codling Flats. And I often wondered over the years what they thought this stupid cowboy was doing, standing there stark naked in front of this fire with just boots and hats on, and the way he went, and I don't know whether they saw me or not.
Should have been able to figure it out.
I guess so, but no, I can see them. Where the hell do you go?
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I've got one more story from Fergie just a little bit later. Coming up, it's Baxter Black and the story of the pickled bull. That great song, Cows Don't Know It's Christmas, from Jeremy Willis, and then the Rangeland News, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at pickled bulls. There are a lot of ways to secure your gooseneck trailer when you're away from it. Wedge it in a railroad car, chain it to a 747, or suspend a hive of carnivorous reptiles from the neck. Or install B&W's new adjustable Defender locking gooseneck coupler. It locks coupled or uncoupled, and the automatic latch makes hooking up easy. Check it out on bndwhitches.com. The same folks that make the turnover ball you like so much, B&W. Robin has neighbors on both sides, one that raises yearling heifers to sell in the fall and another who grows pickling cucumbers. Her heifer neighbors, Barry and Claire, had their yearlings coming on strong. The heifer market was good, but one of the requirements of their buyers were that they were guaranteed open as opposed to bred. Well, to their dismay, one of the cattlemen in the valley had his bulls within wafting distance of the 600 yearling heifers. I'm guessing 50 or so were in heat on any given day. A wreck was predictable. Well, that day came. A rutting Angus was discovered in with the heifers. Well, in concert, Barry and Claire opened gates on each end of the pasture. They didn't care which end the bull wound up just as long as he went. They were a horseback and got the bull headed in a long trot towards one end. Well, he became agitated and stirred up, estrogen probably. The bull shifted into high gear and was roaring and blowing when he swerved from the gate and plowed through the 4-strand barbed wire fence into the pickle grower's field, where workers were hard at it. El Toro crashed through the field, scattering gherkins, trailing vines, dragging yards of black plastic covers, startling pickle pickers. He upset boxes, bags, and bugs, and cucumber beetles were racing for cover. One chemical toilet stood tall in the field. A bullseye was painted on the door. Well, I don't know if that made any difference, but the bull attacked it, knocking it over and rolling it several times. It was a page out of the rodeo clown's Man in the Barrel instruction manual. Well, Barry thundered by after the bull, chasing him down the road while Claire was calling the bull's owner. She left a message and then looked back at the overturned toilet. It had landed with the door up. It creaked open and a head appeared. It was, as you might expect, except he was still wearing his hat. And although it was very inappropriate, she couldn't help herself, and she already had her smartphone out, so she took a picture. Now, she told herself it might be needed if OSHA was ever involved. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan.
Looking for that ideal Christmas gift or stocking stuffer? How about a weekend pass to the 21st Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 16th to 19th, 2017. A terrific lineup of entertainers including Kevin David.
Early morning finds me out along the Great Divide. I stop and watch the prairie come alive.
Jay Snyder.
Imagine you're a cowboy, and breaking colts is what you do, and you've honed your skills for years and years, and other cowboys look up to you.
The one and only Ben Crane.
Hailing me with checking cows in Saskatchewan, Sandy Hill.
And so many more. There's the BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, evening concerts, a wonderful art and gear show, the Art of the West show and sale, workshops on everything from guitar playing to saddle making. The best place to get all the details is bcchs.com. And for tickets, call 1-888-763-2221.
Sound of a wood stove door and my dad throwing kindling on the burn. Well, I jumped up and hit the floor, 'cause we'd hung our stockings on the night before, and those Christmas gifts were my only heart's concern. Dad was dressed, his big boots on, and I couldn't believe it that he wanted to get gone when Santa had been here some hours before. But Dad just smiled, shook his head, said, load my stocking when everything's fed. It's Christmas, but somebody's gotta do the chores. You see, the cows don't know it's Christmas. They can't help themselves, so it's up to us to care for all life creatures, great and small. There's hay to feed, troughs to thaw. When the chores are all finished, they will deck the halls. Yeah, those cows don't know it's Christmas time at all. No, sir. So it's up to us to care for all life creatures, great and small. There's hay to feed, troughs to thaw. When the chores are all finished, they will deck the halls. Yeah, those cows don't know it's Christmas time at all. Lessons learned, I'm older now. I got kids of my own and I teach them somehow to care for those who can't. 'Cause I believe if you went back to that day, hay in the manger where the little boy lay, 'cause someone did their chores on Christmas Eve. You see, the cows don't know it's Christmas, can't help themselves, so it's up to us to care for all life creatures, great and small. There's hay to feed, troughs to thaw. When the chores are all finished, they will deck the halls. Yeah, those cows don't know it's Christmas time at all. I said the cows don't know Christmas, can't help themselves, so it's up to us to care for all God's creatures, great and small. It's hay to feed, troughs to thaw. When the chores are all finished, they will deck the halls. Yeah, those cows don't know it's Christmas time at all. You see, them cows don't know it's Christmas time at all.
The news of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West. We'll tell you what's new under the western sky right after this word from the cattlemen of Western Canada.
Ranching is an important part of our community. From farm to fork, it takes a year and a half to bring beef to your table. It all begins with a calving in the spring of the year. After 6 months in their mother's care, calves are weaned and begin a feeding regimen where they are fed both hay and grain. Ranchers are proud to provide wholesome beef for BC families.
Now, the Rangeland News, top of page 1, the USDA Cattle on Feed report is something producers in the U.S. and Canada keep a close watch on because, of course, that can have an influence on cattle prices going forward. Well, the latest numbers are in, and with more, here's Gary Crawford.
The latest USDA report has placements of cattle into feedlots during October down 5% from October a year ago. Weights of those cattle averaging lower than the year before for the first time in at least 2 years. Feedlot inventories November 1st, 1% below a year ago.
So the real question that sort of is on everybody's mind is, is the expansion stopped? Does it simply slow down?
And the answer from Agriculture Department livestock analyst Sheo Shagam is, we don't know, not yet anyway. But he says the incentives to expand production are not very strong. Feedlots are running negative margins as fed cattle prices fall, but also now cow-calf operators are running in the red.
I mean, right now we've got your 700 to 800 pound feeder calves in Oklahoma City are running about $128 a hundredweight, and that's down from about $177 a year ago. So you can see that you had these very, very good prices which was partially what triggered the expected expansion.
And now we have a dramatic drop in prices, which might do the opposite. USDA's overall cattle inventory report at the end of January may give us a clue on that. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Meanwhile, an estimated 18,000 head of cattle are being held in quarantine from ranches in southern Alberta and Saskatchewan being tested for bovine tuberculosis. The Federal Canadian Food Inspection Agency, the CFIA, has confirmed 6 cases of Alberta cattle with bovine TB dating back to the September discovery of an infected cow at a U.S. plant. Canadian Agriculture Minister Lawrence MacAulay said the government pays compensation for animals that are destroyed, but there currently is no program to help farmers and ranchers whose herds are under quarantine. The CFIA has said its testing aimed at tracing the spread of TB could take months. Well, of all the great things that happened at Agribition in Regina, this is probably the one folks will be mostly talking about. A bull calf went out for an early morning stroll down Regina's Dewdney Avenue after bolting from the grounds at the Canadian Western Agribition. The show chief executive officer Chris Lane said the calf crossed busy Luwian Drive and headed west, spending a little time in the backyard and ending up nearly at the RCMP depot before tuckering out in less than half an hour. The calf's handlers and city police followed him but didn't give chase so they wouldn't spook him, according to the spokesman. The labor shortage in beef production could reach 12,000 workers by 2025, according to a new report on Canada's agricultural labor market. Canadian Agriculture Human Resource Council based the report on a survey of more than 1,000 employees in agriculture, meetings with industry leaders, webinars, and 6 focus groups with ag sector representatives. The council said Canada's ag industry had a shortfall of 59,000 employees in 2014, and the shortage could grow to 114,000 workers by 2025. Of all the commodities within agriculture, Western Canadian products may be the most affected. Grain, oilseed, and beef producers will experience the largest increases in their labor gaps and account for much of the increase in the labor gap for the sector as a whole, according to the report. Well, the draft code of practice for the care and handling of bison has been released for public comment and will be open for input until January the 19th. Notice of the comment period was announced by the Canadian Bison Association and the National Farm Animal Care Council. The Code Development Committee has worked hard since 2014 developing the draft code, said bison producer and Code Committee member Mark Silzer in a news release. And an 11-person committee has been working on the code that includes bison producers, reps from veterinarians, animal welfare groups, governments, and researchers. The National Reining Horse Association would like to congratulate Magnum Chick Dream on becoming the NRHA's newest $4 million sire. Reaching his $3 million sire status in 2015, Magnum Chick Dream has continued to sire elite offspring. This 1998 stallion is by NRHA Hall of Fame inductee and $6 million sire Smart Chickolina, and out of Salem Barbie, owned by Viola Scott. Now, just in case you missed the results of the Heritage Ranch Rodeo at Farm Fair last month, it was a great demonstration of working cowboy ranch skills. And first place went to San Amadeo, second place to North Fork Grazing, third place Meadow Springs Ranch. And the UFA Horse of the Show was shown by Will Mackinac. Way to go, Will. The top bronc rider, Aaron Mercer, and the top working cow horse, Tyler Albrecht. Now, just a reminder, there are 2 horse sales a month and regular cattle sales every Wednesday and lots of other special events at the Innisfail Auction Market. You can get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Coming up on the Horse Training File, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, but if you work on this, you'll find an amazing difference in how your horse works for you. Then another story from Fergie Jocelyn and a beautiful cowboy Christmas song from R.W. Hampton. When the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. If you know when to cue your horse for a stop, a turn, a step, one way or the other, it can make a big difference in how he works for you. More about that coming up on the Horse Training File, but first, now for those of you who've been asking about the next Spirit of the West cruise, I'm happy to tell you that it will take place in June of 2017, and the whole gang will be going
way up north to Alaska, way up north to Alaska, north to Alaska, we're going north for Russia's home.
That's right. My wife Billy and I will be hosting a great group of Spirit of the Westers aboard the beautiful Holland America ship, the Noordam. And we'll sail out of the spectacular Vancouver Harbor, visiting Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Glacier Bay, and then we'll have 2 spectacular days of sightseeing in Denali National Park. Then we'll board the magnificent McKinley Railroad with their sightseeing dome cars and hopefully have a good look at North America's highest peak, Mount McKinley. And then it's on to Anchorage. We'll have our Western music concerts, sing-alongs, great food, and it's a trip that's been on the bucket list of a lot of folks for a long time. And the whole package includes return airfare from Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver, and includes ground transfers in Vancouver and Anchorage, plus all of our Spirit of the West group gatherings, all port and government taxes, all onboard meals, entertainment, and room service, and a special group reception, lots of networking opportunities, our special Spirit of the West gifts, the highly coveted Spirit of the West t-shirt, and a special Spirit of the West tour just for our group in Juneau. Now here's something else. If you like traveling by rail, we have an optional Rocky Mountaineer rail package to travel from Calgary to Vancouver, available on request. Our entire schedule with prices and everything else is available on the cruise page at our website, hugh-mclennan.com. And you can get all the information at this toll-free number, 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Experience the true Spirit of the West at Canada's largest Western store, Irvine Tack and Western Wear. If you need a curb strap or a 4-star gooseneck trailer, you'll find it here. A saddle for every rider. Cutters, reiners, penners, trainers, work and ranch cowboys, ropers. They have over 1,200 in stock. And they have Western wear for the entire family. And how about a gift card as a Christmas stocking stuffer? Shop online at irvinesaddles.ca. Free shipping on orders of over $100. irvinesaddle.ca, 1-877-946-9494. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. I've ridden with a lot of pretty good hands, and after a big challenge getting something done horseback with cattle, that's what they've said. Well, the same thing applies to high-level horsemanship, and much of it comes down to the feel of the rider for what the horse is doing at a moment in time. Timing is the result of a sensitive feel. For example, we can only send a signal through the reins for a horse to respond for a lead change, rollback, or change in direction as the appropriate foot or feet are on the ground. The horse can't redirect a foot that's in the air. And if we're pulling on a rein as the foot is coming down, as Martin Black says, the horse has to wear that pull until the foot is on the ground and then reposition it for a change. Handling a very sensitive horse that's prone to some resistance really requires feel and timing. And Blazer's still teaching me quite a bit about this. When he is in the right state of mind, he'll still show some mild resistance if I want to direct him somewhere he'd rather not go. However, if I have control of his 5 body parts through my hands and legs, I can put the right bend in his body, and if I want to head, say, to the right and up the trail that he'd rather not take, I can bend him to the right, sidestep him to the left 4 or 5 steps, then direct his nose to the right, and here's the key. As soon as his nose goes the way I want, and I feel a step over from his hindquarters, I release the pressure, and he acknowledges that release and then goes right where I want him to. It's a little counterintuitive. Our tendency is to try and keep the pressure on until he's completely headed in the direction I want, but if I release early, he'll begin to anticipate the release and go there on his own. You see, there's a point at which the pressure we may apply with the reins passes from being a respected signal to being a resented signal. And no one knows where this point is exactly except on a case-by-case or step-by-step basis, and it is always different for every horse. Looking for that ideal Christmas gift or stocking stuffer? How about a weekend pass to the 21st Annual Kamloops Cowboy Festival, March 16th to 19th, 2017. A terrific lineup of entertainers including Kevin David.
Early morning finds me out along the Great Divide. I stop and watch the prairie come alive.
Jay Snyder.
Imagine you're a cowboy, and breaking colts is what you do, and you've honed your skills for years and years, and other cowboys look up to you.
The one and only Ben Crane.
Hailing me with checking cows in Saskatchewan sandy hills.
And so many more. There's the BC Cowboy Hall of Fame inductions, dinner shows, evening concerts, a wonderful art and gear show, the Art of the West show and sale, workshops on everything from guitar playing to saddle making. The best place to get all the details is bcchs.com. And for tickets, call 1-888-763-2221.
This is cowboy singer, songwriter, and poet Bren Hill. Cowboy poetry is the voice of the working West, as alive today as it has been for over 125 years. Telling the stories of real ranch life. Learn more about it and Cowboy Poetry Week at cowboypoetry.com, a project of the Center for Western and Cowboy Poetry.
Well, I see that R.W. Hampton and Lisa have sold some pretty nice horses from their Clearview Ranch in New Mexico recently, and there is always a demand for the ones that R.W. starts and trains. And speaking of R.W. Hampton, this could become a cowboy Christmas classic someday. He wrote it, he sings it, Long Canyon Christmas.
It's cold and windy up on the flats. Branson's got a foot of new snow. With the 12 that we got the first of last week, there's nowhere and no way to go. But you can't hardly snow in a cowboy. So I saddle all easy and ride, and down by the Cross L, across the dry Cimarron, there's a big dance in Folsom tonight. It's another Long Canyon Christmas. I'm lonesome, but I'm doing fine. No, it's not the cold wind. I'm thinking about a baby boy at a long, long ago Christmas night. Say, would you look at that big shining star hanging high in the east on the rise? And I'm wishing that I could just follow that star, like the three men the book said was wise. Oh, little cow town, no, you're not Bethlehem, but you're mighty inviting tonight. And before I ride down, gonna stay here a while, 'cause everything feels so right. It's another Long Canyon Christmas. I'm lonesome, but I'm doing fine. No, it's not the cold wind. I'm thinking about a baby boy and a long, long ago Christmas night. No, it's not the cold wind. I'm a-thinking about a baby boy and a long, long ago Christmas night.
Silent night, holy night.
Sleep in heavenly peace.
Well, it was a hot August day on the last of the famous Kamloops cattle drives, and we'd ridden all the way from the historic Hat Creek Ranch across some beautiful high desert and semi-alpine timbered rangeland, and I really enjoyed riding with Fergie Jocelyn, who was recruited for the drover crew because he spent years chasing cattle through that rugged country, and as I said, every creek and meadow and gully reminded Fergie of another story.
And then, I don't know, and there's a tomato store.
Go over that one again too. What were you guys doing there? You'd been riding for.
Well, yeah, that was one of the steer pastures. Okay, when I worked there, Wayne used to run steers in the XH, which Bobby Sisson used to look after, and Meadow Lake, and the Crow's Bar, what we call Crow's Bar. Well, Andy and I, mostly it was Andy and I, but sometimes another guy would ride with Andy, and we would look after Crow's Bar and Meadow Lake, and Bobby Sisson would look usually after the XH. So we'd been up checking the yearlings. We were there for maybe a couple of days, whatever we'd got. And anyway, for lunch, I guess we just took a tin of tomatoes with us. And come lunchtime, we were sitting on this beautiful country. Anybody who's been in that country in the Fraser, and you can sit on these bench lands and you can, watch the benches go down into the Fraser. And we're just sitting there, and Andy always had this great big mustache, and he looked like a walrus almost sometimes. And so anyway, we're passing this tin of tomatoes back and forth, but we weren't really looking at each other. We were just talking and handing back and forth, and so we were just about finished, I guess, and he said, "Here, Ferg," and I went to take it, and I made the mistake of turning and looking, and here was all these little bits of tomato and tomato seeds and all this red stuff hanging off Andy's face. Looked like he had his throat cut or something. And I said, "No thanks, Andy." I said, "You eat them, I don't need any more." And that turned me off eating there for the rest of the day. I couldn't handle that. But and then of course he'd grin at you and his mustache would get bigger and things like that. No, he was a great old guy, Andy. I think anybody that knew Andy, and you couldn't stump him. I don't think man, beast, or horse could ever, or machinery. He always could seem to get it going, or I don't know. He just seemed he was born and raised to it, and that's the only life he ever knew. He never did anything else.
Coming up is another real nice song about Christmas and ranching country, and then a very special piece of cowboy poetry when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. From all reports, the Western Music Association's big festival and award show was enjoyed by everyone down in Albuquerque last month. And when the award for WMA Male Vocalist of the Year was announced, the winner was the Kansas-raised rancher and fine songwriter and singer Barry Ward. Barry, Victoria, and their family now ranch in Colorado, but his singing career is just keeping him so busy that I'm not sure how he's able to run the ranch these days. They call him the Bear, and I just love his voice and his songwriting. Here's Barry Ward with Christmas in the Pine River Valley.
And I long for the touch
of her soft hands on my face, her memories drawing me back to this place. Her arms are beckoning, come unto me. It's Christmas in the Pine River Valley. It's Christmas in the Pine River Valley. I left my heart over that mountain where we rode by the river in the morning sun, side by side, swaying and laughing. We worked till the day was done, busting drifts to make it home by dusk. A flickering lantern lights up Christ's nativity. A warm rhubarb pie baked just for us, 'cause it's Christmas in the Pine River Valley. Sweet fragrance of these big old pine trees assure me that I'm finally home. The quake and aspen singing carols for me, 'cause it's Christmas in the Pine River Valley. And I long for the touch of her soft hands on my face, her memories drawing me back to this place. Her arms are beckoning, come unto me. It's Christmas in the Pine River Valley. It's Christmas in the Pine River Valley. I left my heart over that mountain where we rode by the river in the morning sun. Honey, I miss you.
Now, the Pine River Valley, or the Pine River, could be a lot of places, and the first one that comes to mind, of course, is the Pine River that flows into the Peace near Fort St. John, where folks catch us on the Moose FM every weekend. And then there's Pine River, Minnesota, where a bunch of my relatives are from, and there are several more. J.W. Beeson is a cowboy poet, saddle maker, and a ranch cowboy from Lipscomb, Texas. He was born in Pampa, Texas in 1951, raised in northwest Oklahoma, and when he turned to saddle making as a career, he started in Amarillo, Texas, and he moved a few times, winding up in Oklahoma, where he operated his own shop until a tornado destroyed it in 1990. So he returned to ranch work and cowboying, or whatever was available, and in 1995, he was hired by the Great American Cattle Drive to help drive a herd of Texas Longhorns from Fort Worth to Miles City in Montana. and Beeson left with the herd March the 5th, 1995 from the Fort Worth stockyards and arrived in Montana September the 1st in Miles City, 6 months and 1,600 miles later. And in October of 1996, he was inducted into the Old Trail Drivers Association of Texas and was credited as being the only cowboy to be in the saddle every day of the drive, a feat not accomplished since 1896. JW's in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight this week with Christmas Serenade.
It's 15 below on the prairie. The wind chill's down near 42. And I'm watching a Texas blue norther blow in, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do, 'cause the tanks are froze pretty near solid, and the handles broke off my best axe, and the feed's getting wet from a hole in the roof where it's leaking all over the sacks. And I'm feeding more hay than I planned on, 'cause the snow covered up all the grass. Tractor broke down. The pickup won't start, and it's cold as a well digger's shovel. It's the 24th day of December, and the sagebrush is covered with ice, and I think that a hot cup of coffee or a good shot of rye would be nice, 'cause my feet are so cold I can't feel 'em, and my fingers are pretty near froze, and there's icicles hung off my mustache from the drip dripping off of my nose. And I was hoping I'd get to quit early and be back at the house Christmas Eve, but these baldies are crying and hungry, and there ain't no one to feed if I leave. And there's one little motley-faced heifer that somehow got in with a bull, and she's just too little to leave by herself, 'cause the calf's going to have to be pulled. And, well, there's one other thing I could mention, a fact that is painfully clear. I'm so broke that I can't pay attention. So I guess I'll spend Christmas out here. But it's pretty out here on the prairie, where the stars light the cold winter sky, and though I can't remember when things was much worse, I guess I'm still a right lucky guy, 'cause I've got a good woman who'll love me no matter what time I come home, and my young'uns are happy and healthy, though I wish they weren't quite so near grown. And I've got that new 3-year-old filly that's better than I even dreamed. And my old spotted gelding, he's as good as they get. So things ain't quite as bad as they seem. I've got no cause for being ungrateful. To gripe and complain isn't good, 'cause there's people all over this country that'd trade places with me if they could. So I reckon I'll have a good Christmas, in spite of my problems somehow. I'll just watch as this Texas blue norther blows in and sing "O Holy Night" to the cows.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride this week. Boy, I hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. Tell you about that in a second or two. Thanks again to our great support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan at Meadow Springs Guest Ranch. Their website is meadowsprings.com, and they're busy putting plans together for the big Kamloops Cowboy Festival in March, the 100 Mile House Cowboy Concert. Now, next week, it's our very special Spirit of the West Christmas show with some unforgettable music, poems, and stories from cowboys, ranch wives, and folks who love our Western way of life. Till then, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.